Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskrityam Naro Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jamudiraye Nashtaprayeshu Bhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Uttama Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naishtaki Krishnaya Vasudevaya Devaki Nandanaya Cha Nandagopa Kumaraya Govindaya Namo Namaha Mukam Karoti Vachalam Pangulangayate Girim Yat Krupatvam Ham Vande Shri Deenaguttam. Hare Krishna, dear devotees. Thank you for joining in the class, the regular reading of Bhagavatam. So we had halted at text number 36. And what we'll be doing is that we'll be starting with text number 37. So if you see in this particular section, where Brahmaji is saying that it is not possible to completely know the Lord. And who can know the Lord? Only, in fact, even completely means what? Somebody can know the Lord partially, not completely. Because many times Krishna himself also does not know that what are his own qualities. So Brahmaji is saying that I hold the Lord Hari in my heart with great zeal. Yan me ridhav the kantha harihi. So I am holding the Supreme Lord in my heart with great zeal. And who can hold the Supreme Lord in his heart? Whose words are not false, whose mind and the working of the mind is also never false, and the senses are never distracted. Only that person can hold the Supreme Lord in his heart. And though Brahmaji is saying that he cannot understand the Lord, though he's in disciplic succession, he has done a lot of austerities, and the Prajapatis are worshipping him, and anybody who is in, has, he is full of mystic powers and he has self-realization. Still, he is saying that I cannot understand the Supreme Lord. And further, Brahmaji is saying that even the Supreme Lord is not able to estimate his own limits. What to speak then of others? So that is why instead of knowing Krishna, it is better to love Krishna. So they say that don't try to know Krishna, try to love Krishna. And in loving Krishna only you will know Krishna. So that is why it is Brahmaji saying that it is best I should surrender. And when I surrender, what will happen is Bhavachidam. It will destroy all my material existence. And then what will happen? Then there will be all auspiciousness, Swasti Ayanam. And there will be Sumangalam. Means it will allow one to perceive all happiness. So, and that's why we halted at that 36 number shloka. So now he will actually further say that who all cannot understand the limits of the Supreme Lord, or who are not able to ascertain the limits of the Supreme Lord. So, Naham na yuyam yadritam katim vidur navama devah kim utapare surah tanmayaya mohita buddhasyastav idam vinirmitam chatsman vichakshamehe. So he's saying that. So Shri Prabhu, please read the translation and purport both.
Hare Krishna. Translation. Since neither Lord Shiva nor you nor I could ascertain the limits of spiritual happiness, how can other demigods know it? And because all of us are bewildered by the illusory external energy of the Supreme Lord, we can see only this manifested cosmos according to our individual ability. Purport: we have many times mentioned the names of 12 selected authorities. Dwadasha Mahajana, of which Brahma, Narada, and Lord Shiva head the list as the first, second, and third in order of merit of those who know something of the Supreme Lord. Other demigods, semi-demigods, Gandharvas, Charanas, Vidyadharas, human beings, or Asuras cannot possibly know fully about the potencies of the Absolute Lord Sri Krishna. The demigods, semi-demigods, Gandharvas, etc. are all highly intelligent persons in the upper planets. The human beings are inhabitants of the intermediate planets and the asuras are inhabitants of the lower planets. All of them have their respective conceptions and estimations of the absolute truth, as does the scientist or the empiric philosopher in human society. All such living entities are creatures of material nature, and consequently they are bewildered by the wonderful display of the three modes of material nature. Such bewilderment is mentioned in the Bhagavad-gītā 7.13. Trivir gunamair bhaver ebihi sarvam idam jagat. Every entity beginning from Brahma down to the end is individually bewildered by the three modes of material nature, namely goodness, passion, and ignorance. Everyone thinks in terms of individual capacity that this universe which is manifested before us is all in all. And so the scientist in the human society of the 20th century calculates the beginning and end of the universe in his own way. But what can the scientist know? Even Brahma himself was once bewildered, thinking himself the only one Brahma favored by the Lord. But later on, by the grace of Lord, he came to know that there are innumerable more powerful Brahmas as well in far bigger universe beyond this universe, and all of these universes combined together form Ekpad Vibhuti, or 1/4 of the manifestation of the Lord's creative energy. The other 3/4 of his energy are displayed in the spiritual world, and so what can the tiny scientist with a tiny brain know the absolute personality of Godhead, Lord Krishna? The Lord says, therefore, Mohitam Naviya Janati Mam Evaya Param Abhayam. Bewildered by such modes of material nature, they cannot understand that beyond these manifestations is a supreme person who is the absolute controller of everything. Brahma, Narada, and Lord Shiva know about the Lord to a considerable extent, and therefore one should follow the instructions of these great personalities instead of being satisfied with a tiny brain and his playful discoveries such as spacecraft and similar products of science. As the mother is the only authority to identify the father of a child, so the mother Vedas presented by the recognized authorities such as Brahma, Narada, or Shiva is the only authority to inform us about the absolute truth.
Yeah.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Prabhu. Thank you so much. So, Brahma, Lord Shiva, and even Narad Muni cannot ascertain the limits of spiritual happiness. Then, what to speak of all the others, Gandharvas, Kinnaras, and Chanaras, and all these? And they are bewildered by Maya. So, therefore, we can just see only his manifested cosmos according to our own individuality, ability, you can say. So, it is very difficult to ascertain the Supreme Lord's spiritual happiness. So then further he says, nonetheless, even if we don't understand the Supreme Lord, at least let us still glorify his activities. Nama, Guna, Roop and Leela. So, Yasyavatara karmani gayanti asmad adyan nayam vidanti tatvena tasmai bhagavat namaha. Lakshminarayan Prabhu is there?
Yes, Mataji, Hare Krishna Dhanapranam.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, Dhanapranam. Please read the translation and purport.
Yes, Mataji, translation. Let us offer our respectful obeisances unto the Supreme Personality of Godhead, whose incarnations and activities are chanted by us for glorification, though he can hardly be fully known as he is. But it is said that the transcendental name, form, quality, pastimes, paraphernalia, personality, etc., cannot possibly be perceived by the gross materialistic means senses, but when the senses are purified by the process of hearing, chanting, remembering, and worshipping the lotus feet of the holy deity, etc., the Lord reveals himself proportionately to the advancement of the quality of devotional service. Ye yatamam prapadyante. One should not expect the Lord to be an order supplying agent who must be present before us as soon as we desire to see him. We must be ready to undergo the prescribed devotional duties, following the path shown by the predecessors in the distinct succession from Brahma, Narada, and similar authorities. As the senses are progressively purified by bona fide devotional service, the Lord reveals his identity according to the spiritual advancement of the devotee. But one who is not in the line of devotional service can hardly perceive him simply by calculations and philosophical speculations. Such a hard worker can present a jugglery of words before audience, but can never know the Supreme Personality of Godhead in his personal feature. The Lord has clearly stated in the Bhagavad-gītā that one can know him only by the devotional service. No one can know the Lord by any puffed up material process of challenge. But the humble devotee can please the Lord by his earnest devotional activities. Thus the Lord reveals himself proportionately before the devotee. Lord Brahma therefore offers his respectful obeisances as a bona fide spiritual master and advises us to follow the process of Shravana and Kirtana. Simply by this process, or simply by hearing and chanting the glories of the activities of the Lord's incarnation, one can certainly see within himself the identity of the Lord. We have already discussed this subject in volume 1 of Śrīmad Bhāgavatam in connection with this verse. Tat Shraddha Dana Munaya Jnana Vairagya Yuktaya Pashyanti Atmani Chatmanam Bhaktya Shruta Grihitaya. The conclusion is that one cannot know the Supreme Personality of Godhead fully by any method, but he can be seen and felt partially by the devotional service, process of hearing, chanting, etc. Thank you, Mataji.
Yeah, we are also feeling when we're chanting and hearing, we also have some feelings for the Supreme Lord, and that is why we continue, for all these long years, because we are experiencing the divinity of the Supreme Lord around us. So now in the next section, from 39th to approximately, how many shlokas? I think 46 till 39 to 46, Brahmaji will describe the original creator. Who is the original creator? He is Mahavishnu. We had seen recently in that particular Shrishti chart, the Karan Shrishti chart, that how Karodakshaya Vishnu, Lord's Swamsha, his glance impregnates Jiva into the material nature, and at every step there is Kal involved. So because there is when the Lord glances, then the Kal gets agitated, and when the Kal gets agitated, then even the Pradhan gets agitated, and then the Mahatattva and all these, at every step these they get agitated, and because they get agitated, and the next step starts from there. So then Brahmaji is now going to actually describe the original creator, who is Mahavishnu, and he will be also answering to the fourth question which Narad Muni had asked him in chapter number 5. So what was question number 4 that Narada asked in chapter number 5, text number 2? He said that how is this material world conserved? Which means that in what it merges at destruction. So Brahmaji will be answering to that question in 39 number shloka, that yam samstham where it is being conserved, or where is the dissolution of this universe. Sa esha adya purusha kalpe kalpe srijati ajaha atmani atmanamanam na samyachati paticha. So today we have actually two new devotees who have just entered. One is Tejashree Pardesi Mataji. Mataji, what is your initiated name?
Tejaswini Devi Dasi.
Tejaswini Devi Dasi Mataji. So we just welcome her. And we have one more Mataji who is just and we have Monica Mataji also from Surat. And I don't know who is on hearing mode, but I think there is one more person who is on hearing mode. Should be, I think, Soumya's mummy, Matangi Mataji on hearing mode. Okay, so we welcome all these devotees. Welcome to the class. So we just go by, one by one, everybody reads. And a little explanation I give. I don't give much explanation, 1 or 2 minutes. I just give explanation because the prime aim is to read. Monica Mataji, please read this translation and purport both. 39th.
Hare Krishna Mataji. Translation. That Supreme Original Personality of Godhead, Lord Shri Krishna, expanding his plenary portion as Mahavishnu, the first incarnation, creates this manifested cosmos, but he is unborn. The creation, however, takes place in him, and the material substance and manifestations are all himself. He manifests himself for some time and absorbs them into himself again. Purport. The creation is non-different from the Lord, and still he is not in creation. This is explained in Bhagavad-gītā 9.4 as follows. Maya tam idam sarvam jagat avyaktam murtina matsthani sarva bhutani na chaham tesha avasthitah. The personal conception of the absolute truth is also the
This is
impersonal.
personal conception.
Yeah, this is impersonal conception of the absolute truth is also a form of the Lord called Avyakta Murti. Murti means form, but because his impersonal feature is inexplicable to our limited senses, he is the Avyakta Murti form, and in that inexplicable form of Lord, the whole creation is resting. Or in other words, the whole creation is the Lord himself, and the creation is also non-different from him. But simultaneously, he, as the original personality of Godhead, Sri Krishna, is aloof from the created manifestation. The impersonalist gives stress to the impersonal form or feature of the Lord and does not believe in the original personality of the Lord, but the Vaishnavas accept the original form of the Lord, of the whom the impersonal form is merely one of the features. The impersonal and personal conceptions of the Lord are existing simultaneously. And this fact is clearly described both in Bhagavad Gita and in Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam, and also in other Vedic scriptures. Inconceivable to human intelligence, the idea must simply be accepted on the authority of the scriptures, and it can only be practically realized by the progress of devotional service unto the Lord, and never by mental speculation or inductive logic. The impersonalists depend more or less on inductive logic, and therefore they always remain in darkness. About the original personality of Godhead Shri Krishna, their conception of Krishna is not clear, although everything is clearly mentioned in all the Vedic scriptures. A proof found of a poor fund of knowledge cannot comprehend the existence of the original personal form of the Lord when he is expanded in everything. This imperfectness is due more or less to the material conception that a substance distributed widely in parts can no longer exist in the original form. The original personality of Godhead, Adya Govinda, expands himself as a Mahavishnu incarnation and rests in the causal ocean which he himself creates. The Brahma Samhita confirms this as follow: Yah karanarnava jale bhajati sayoga nidram ananta jagad anda
Saromakupa.
Saromakupa Adhar Shaktim Avalambaya Param Swamurtim Govindam Adipurusham Tamaham Bhajami. Lord Brahmaji says in his Brahma Samhita, I worship the primeval Lord Govinda who lives down in the causal ocean in his plenary portion as Mahavishnu, with all the universes generating from the force of a hair on his transcendental body, and who accepts the mystic slumber of eternity. So this Mahavishnu is the first incarnation in the creation, and for him all the universes are generated and all material manifestations are produced, one after another. The causal ocean is created by Lord as a Mahatattva, as a cloud in the spiritual sky, and is only a part of his different manifestations. The spiritual sky is an expansion of his personal rays, and he is the Mahatattva cloud also. He lies down and generates the universes by his breathing, and again by entering into each universes as Garbhodakshai Vishnu. He creates Brahma, Shiva, and many other demigods for maintenance of the universe, and again absorbs the whole thing into his person, as confirmed in Bhagavad-gītā 9.7. Sarva Bhutani Kaunteya Prakritam Yanti Mamikam Kalpakshaye Punastani Kalpado Visrujamyaham. O son of Kunti, when the kalpa or the duration of the life of Brahma is ended, then all the created manifestations entered into my prakriti or energy, and again when I desire, the same creation takes place by my personal energy. The conclusion is that these are all but displays of the Lord's inconceivable personal energies of which no one can have any full information. This point we have already discussed. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you so much. Well read. Like this only what happen when we are not used to read Sanskrit. So when we'll read like this only, we'll get into the habit of reading Sanskrit, and many times we'll understand also. Some words we'll understand, like we know Sarva, we know Bhutani means living entities, Kaunteya means we know that Krishna is calling Arjuna as Kaunteya, or we know Prakritim, Kalpashaya we know, Punyas Tani we know, certain words we know, only some other words we'll have to just know their meaning. So slowly, we'll get into the habit, we'll get into a form of reading. Otherwise, reading becomes a little very difficult. Alone, we start feeling sleepy also. At least I start feeling very sleepy when I'm reading alone. So that's why I formed so many forums so that I don't sleep while reading. Okay. So then further, Brahmaji is saying that what are these qualities of the Lord? And these are very wonderful qualities of the Lord. So the first quality is Vishuddham. So if you see the Sanskrit text, Vishuddham means without any material tinge. So we are bounded by the three modes of material nature, and we are sometimes into goodness, sometimes into passion, sometimes into ignorance. But the Supreme Lord is Nirguna. He is above all these qualities, and he's on a Shuddha Sattva level, and that is why he's called Nirguna also, or he's called Vishuddham also. And then he's Kevalam Jnanam. Kevalam means pure and perfect. So he has knowledge, but how is that knowledge? That knowledge is not tainted with the three modes. It is pure knowledge, pure and also perfect knowledge. That is why Krishna in the Bhagavad-gītā also he's saying, right, that Sarvashcham Riddhi Sanvishtam Matta Smitra Jnana Apohanam Cha Vedesha Sarvera Aham Eva Veda Vedanta Kritvid Eva. So from me only comes knowledge, from me only comes remembrance, and from me only comes forgetfulness. And then he's saying, he's saying that Kevalam Jnanam, and then he's saying that Pratyag. So how is Krishna? Krishna is pervading everywhere, and he's saying Samyak. So how is Krishna pervading? He's pervading in fullness. And Avasthitam. So he's situated and Satyam. So he's Satyam Purnam. So he's full of truth also, and he's Purnam also. He's absolute. So even in our Ishopanishad Bhakti Shastri, we had seen that Om Purnamadam Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. So Krishna is Purna. In all aspects, Krishna is Purna. And he is what? He's Anadi. He's Anadi. Anadi means what? That he does not have a beginning. And Antam, he does not have an end also. And then he is Nirgun. As I previously also said that he does not have any material qualities. He's not, he's not under the influence of the three modes of material nature. And then Krishna is Nityam. He is eternal. And he is Advayam. Advayam means he does not have any enemies, no rivals he has. Okay, and then Brahmaji is saying that, O Rishe, Vidanti Munayah. So who are these, Rishe, Vidanti? Only those who can understand, who are the great thinkers. Vidanti Munayah. And Prashanta, those who are, very self-satisfied, or those who are very pacified, or those who are Atmaramas. That is why he's saying that Prashant Atma Indriya Indriya Ashyah Yadaha. So saying that those who are very much self-controlled, whose senses are very much controlled, those who are pacified, whose senses do not trouble them, and for such people, who is the ashraya or the shelter? Then Lord Krishna is the shelter. And then he is saying that Yada tad eva sat tarkes. So tarka means actually argument. So this is without argument. These are all the qualities of the Supreme Lord, and no amount of arguments can be no amount of you can say that no amount of any arguments that the Supreme Lord is always the Supreme. So nobody can argue as such. And if we don't do all these, then what will happen is the Supreme Lord will always be there within us. Triyo dhyeta vipulatmam. Vipulatma means actually distorted. Or triyo dhitiye means disappears from our eyes. So see, the personality Godhead is pure, being free from all contaminations of material tinges. He is the absolute truth and the embodiment of full and perfect knowledge. He is all pervading without beginning or end and without rival. Oh Narada, oh say. So these are the qualities of Krishna. Why I took a little more time? Because we should know what are the beautiful qualities of Krishna, and then throughout the day हमें मननम करना चाहिए. We are contemplating. Oh, Krishna is Vishuddham. Oh, Krishna is Satyam. Oh, Krishna is Purnam. Oh, Krishna is Anadi Antam. Oh, Krishna is Nirguna Nityam Advayam. These qualities, when we meditate on Krishna, then all the time we are in association of Krishna. So, yeah. So this purport is a bit long. What I'll do is I will divide it into two parts. I mean, with two devotees, so that everybody gets a chance for reading as such. Anup Prabhu, please do the honors of reading the first part of the purport, translation and purport, and I'll just tell you where to halt, and then maybe somebody else can take it up from there.
No problem much.
Yeah.
Here is an estimation of the Lord apart from his transcendental activities in the temporary material creations. Mayavada philosophy tries to designate the Lord as contaminated by material body when he accepts forms of incarnation. This sort of interpolation is completely denied herein by the explanation that the Lord's position is pure and unalloyed in all circumstances. According to Mayavada philosophy, the spirit soul, when covered by nescience, is designated as Jiva. But when freed from such ignorance or nescience, he merges in the impersonal existence of the Absolute Truth. But here it is said that the Lord is eternally the symbol of full and perfect knowledge. This is his speciality. Perpetual freedom from all material contaminations. This distinguishes the Lord from the individual common living entities who have the aptitude for being subordinated by nescience and thus becoming materially designated. In the Vedas, it is said that the Lord is Vijnanam Anandam, full of bliss and knowledge. The conditioned souls are never to be compared to him, because such individual souls have the tendency to become contaminated. Although after liberation, the living entity can become one with the same quality of existence as the Lord. His very tendency to become contaminated, which the Lord never has, makes the individual living entity different from the Lord. In the Vedas, it is said, Shuddham apapavidham. The individual Atma becomes polluted by sin. But the Lord is never contaminated by sins. The Lord is compared to the powerful sun. The sun is never contaminated by anything infectious because it is so powerful. On the contrary, infected things are sterilized by the rays of the sun. Similarly, the Lord is never contaminated by sins. On the contrary, the sinful living entities become sterilized by contact with the Lord. This means that the Lord is also all-pervading, like the sun, and as such, the word pratyak is used in this verse. Nothing is excluded from the expansions of the Lord's potency. The Lord is within everything, and he is all-covering also, without being disturbed by the activities of the individual souls. He is therefore infinite, and the living entities are infinitesimal. In the Vedas, it is said that only the Lord alone exists, and all others' existences depend on him. He is the generating reservoir for everyone's existential capacity. He is the supreme truth of all other categorical truths. He is the source of everyone's opulence, and therefore no one can equal him in opulence. Being full of all opulences, namely wealth, fame, strength, beauty, knowledge, and renunciation, certainly he is the Supreme Person. And because he is a person, he has many personal qualities, although he is transcendental to the material modes. We have already discussed the statement Ittama Bhuta Guna Hari Bhagavat Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam 1.7.10.
Yeah, Prabhu, thank you so much.
No.
Thank you very much. So this 1.7.10 is a very nice shloka where Sud Goswami is actually saying that Atmaramascha munuyo nirgrantha api urukrame kurvanti ahetukim bhaktim itham bhuto guna hari. He's saying that there are many varieties of Atmaramas who their pleasure is only in Atma or the spirit self. And especially those who are, on the path of self-realization, though they are actually freed from all kinds of, you can say, material bondage, but the desire to render, unalloyed devotional service or Shuddh Bhakti unto the Supreme Lord. So this means that the Lord is possessing all transcendental qualities, and therefore the Supreme Lord can attract anyone, including the liberated souls also. So if the Supreme Lord is, attracting the liberated soul, that is why he's saying that, because those who are liberated, which means what, they're nirgrantha, freed from all bondages. So if the Supreme Lord has the capacity of attracting even the liberated souls, then what to speak of normal people? So see, a liberated person, he has perfected himself, and then he is, on a very nice transcendental plane, okay, on a platform, he can say. And he's already attracted, but still, the degree of attraction, it multiplies. Over here in the material world, people stop at 100%. But in the spiritual world, there is infinitesimal, where it keeps on doubling. As I always say, that if over here gopis want to please Krishna 50%, Krishna wants to please 100, and then gopis want to please 200, and Krishna wants to please 400%, and then gopis want to please 800, and keeps on doubling, and there is a transcendental competition that who will please whom. So for such people also, Krishna is attractive. So yeah, we'll just see. Oh, who is the next? I'll just ask. Priyanka, please read this remaining purport.
Yes, Mataji, Hare Krishna. His transcendental qualities are so attractive that even the liberated souls, Atma Ramas, are also attracted by them. Although possessed of all personal qualities, he is nevertheless omnipotent. Therefore, personally he has nothing to do, for everything is being carried out by his omnipotent energies. This is confirmed by the Vedic mantras. Parasya Shaktir Vividhaiva Shruyate Swabhaviki Jnana Balakriyacha. This suggests his specific spiritual form, which can never be experienced by the material senses. He can be seen only when the senses are purified by devotional service. Yam evaisa vrunate tena labhya. As such, there are basic differences between the Lord and the living entities in so many respects. No one can be compared to the Lord, as the Vedas declare. Ekam ivadvitiyam brahma dvaitadvai bhayam bhavati. The Lord has no competitor and he has nothing to fear from any being, nor can anyone be equal to him. Although he is the root of all other beings, there are basic differences between him and other beings. Otherwise, there would have been no necessity for the statement in the previous verse that no one can know him 100% as he is, na yam vidanti tatvena. That no one can fully understand him is explained also in this verse, but the qualification for understanding to some degree is mentioned here. Only the Prashantas or the unalloyed devotees of the Lord can know him to a greater extent. The reason is that the devotees have no demands in their lives but to be obedient servants of the Lord, while all others, namely the empiric philosophers, the mystics, and the fruitative workers, all basically have some demand, and as such they cannot be pacified. The fruitative worker wants reward for his work, the mystic wants some perfection of life, and the empiric philosopher wants to merge in the existence of the Lord. Somehow or other, as long as there is a demand for sense satisfaction, there is no chance for pacification. On the contrary, by unnecessary dry speculative arguments, the whole matter becomes distorted, and thus the Lord moves still further away from our understanding. The dry speculators, however, because of their following the principles of austerity and penance, can have knowledge of the impersonal features of the Lord to some extent, but there is no chance of their understanding his ultimate form as Govinda, because only the Amalatmanas or the completely sinless persons can accept pure devotional service to the Lord as confirmed in the Bhagavad-gītā 7.28. Yasham tva antagatam papam jananam punya karmanam te dvandva moha nirmukta bhajante mam drada vrataha. Thank you, Mataji. Hare Krishna.
Thank you. Thank you so much. So actually, Srila Prabhupada, in the remaining part, he was actually explaining this Ittam Bhuto Guno Hari. So now, in the next shloka, Brahmanji is telling then, okay, we cannot know the Lord. It is very difficult to understand the Lord. Even I cannot understand the Lord, but we need to still glorify his activities. So, okay, these are the qualities of the Supreme Lord. But then how to know him? So now, he'll be answering in the next that. And what is his zone of control? So Adya avatar purusha parasya kala swabhava sadasannascha dravyam vikara guna indriyani virata swaratas sthasno chiranishu bhum naha. Yeah, Vignesh Prabhu, please read the translation and purport both.
Hare Krishna, Mataji.
Hare Krishna Prabhu.
Translation. Karnarna Vashai Vishnu is the first incarnation of the Supreme Lord, and he is the master of eternal time, space, cause and effects, mind, the elements, the material ego, the modes of nature, the senses, the universal form of the Lord Garbhodakshaya Vishnu, and the sum total of all living beings, both moving and non-moving. Purport. That the material creation is not permanent has been discussed many times herein before. The material creation is but a temporary exhibition of the material energy of the Almighty God. This material manifestation is necessary to give a chance to the conditioned souls who are unwilling to associate with the Lord in the relationship of loving transcendental service. Such unwilling conditioned souls are not allowed to enter into the liberated life of spiritual existence because at heart they are not willing to serve. Instead, they want to enjoy themselves as imitation gods. The living entities are constitutionally eternal servitors of the Lord, but some of them, because of misusing their independence, do not wish to serve. Therefore, they are allowed to enjoy the material nature, which is called Maya or illusion. It is called illusion because the living beings under the clutches of Maya are not factually enjoyers, although they think that they are, being illusioned by Maya. Such illusioned living entities are given a chance at intervals to rectify their perverted mentality of becoming false masters of the material nature, and they are imparted lessons from the Vedas about their eternal relationship with the Supreme Lord Krishna. Vedescha sarvairahameva vedyaha. So the temporary creation of the material manifestation is an exhibition of the material energy of the Lord, and to manage the whole show, the Supreme Lord incarnates himself as the Karnarna Vashai Vishnu, just as a magistrate is deputed by the government to manage affairs temporarily. This Karnodakshai Vishnu causes the manifestation of material creation by looking over his material energy, Saikshata. In the first volume of this book, we have already discussed to some extent the explanation of the verse Jagrihe Paurusham Rupam. The duration of the illusory play of material creation is called a kalpa, and we have already discussed the creations taking place in kalpa after kalpa. By his incarnation and the activities of his potencies, the complete ingredients of creation, namely time, space, cause, result, mind, the gross and subtle elements and their interactional modes of nature, goodness, passion, and ignorance, and then the senses and their reservoir source, the gigantic universal form as the second incarnation Garbhodakshaya Vishnu, and all living beings, both moving and standing, which come out of the second incarnation, all become manifested. Ultimately, all these creative elements and the creation itself are but manifestations of the Supreme Lord's potencies. Nothing is independent of the control of the Supreme Being. This first incarnation in the material creation, namely Karnarna Vashai Vishnu, is the plenary part of the original personality of Godhead, Śrī Krishna, described in the Brahma Samhita 5.48 as follows: Yasyeka Nishvasita Kalam Athavalambya Jivanti Loma Vilaja Jagadanda Vishnurmahan sa iha yasya kala vishesho govindamadipurusham tamaham bhajami. All the innumerable universes are maintained only during the breathing period of Mahavishnu or Karnarna Vashai Vishnu, who is only a plenary part of Govinda, the original personality of Godhead, Lord Krishna.
Thank you, Prabhu. Thank you so much. So actually, his zone of control is Karnodaksha Vishnu, the first incarnation of the Supreme Lord, is the master of eternal time, space, cause and effects, the mind, the ego, the modes of sense, the senses, the universal form, Garbhodaksha Vishnu, and all that sum total, that chart that we saw in the 5th chapter. And then he's saying that okay, his zone of control, this is all his zone of control. Then none of the material things are the Lord's Sarupa. So all these material things that are there, they are not the Lord's Sarupa. It's not the Lord's form at all. Because all these, he has previously also described the Purusha Avtaras, which are predominantly concerning the Maya Shakti only. So they are saying that अहभवो यज्ञ इमे प्रजेशा दक्षा दयो ये भवदाद यक्षः स्वलो स्वर्लो कपला खगलो कपला नृलोकपालास्तल लोकपालः गंधर्व विद्याश्च विद्याधरचारणेशा ये यक्षरक्षोरगगनाथाः ये वा ऋषीणां वृषभा पितॄणां दैत्येन्द्रिय सिद्धेश्वर दानवेन्द्रः अन्ये च ये प्रतपीच्छा च भूतः कुष्माण्ड यादो मृग पक्षयाधीशा यत्किंच लोके भगवन्महस्व दोजः सस्वद बलवत क्षमावत विभूत्यात्मा वदार्णः तत्व परस्वरूप वद स्वरूपमः. It's a long purport, I guess, because there are, I think, 3-4 shlokas clubbed into this. Yeah, there are 3 shlokas clubbed into this. Vrinda is there today? Oh yes, Vrinda is there. Vrinda, please read translation and purport, beta.
Translation. I, myself, Brahma, Lord Shiva, Lord Vishnu, great generators of living beings like Daksha and Prajapati, yourselves, Narada and the Kumaras, heavenly demigods like Indra and Chandra, the leaders of the Bhurloka planets, the leaders of the earthly planets, the leaders of the lower planets, the leaders of the Gandharva planets, the leaders of the Vidyadhara planets, the leaders of the Charanaloka planets, the leaders of the Yakshas, Rakshas, and Urgas, the great sages, the great demons, the great atheists, and the great spacemen, as well as the dead bodies, evil spirits, Satanas, Jinn, Kushmandas, great aquatics, great beasts, and great birds, etc. In other words, anything and everything which is exceptionally possessed of power, opulence, mental and perceptual dexterity, strength, forgiveness, beauty, modesty, opulence, and breeding, whether in the form or formless, may appear to be the specific truth in the form of the Lord, but actually they're not so. They are only a fragment of the transcendental potency of the Lord. Purport. Those in the list given above, beginning from the name Brahmaji, the first living creature within the universe, down to Lord Shiva, Lord Vishnu, Narada, and other powerful demigods, men, supermen, sages, and rishis, and other lower creatures of extraordinary strength and opulence, including the dead bodies, satanas, evil spirits, jinn, aquatic birds, and beasts, may appear to be the Supreme Lord, but factually none of them is the Supreme Lord. Every one of them possesses only a fragment of the great potencies of the Supreme Lord. The less intelligent man is surprised to see the wonderful actions of material phenomena as the aborigines are fearful of a great thunderbolt, a gigantic banyan tree, or a great lofty mountain in the jungle. For undeveloped human beings, merely the slight display of the Lord's potency is captivating. A still more advanced person is captivated by the powers of the demigods and goddesses. Therefore, those who are simply astonished by the powers of anything in this creation of the Lord, without any factual information of the Lord Himself, are known as Shaktas, or worshippers of the great powers. The modern scientist is also captivated by the wonderful actions and reactions of natural phenomena, and therefore is also a Shakta. These lower grade persons gradually rise to become Shauriyas, worshippers of the sun god, or Ganapatyas, worshipper of the mass people as Janathara or Daridra Narayana, etc., in the form of Ganapati, and then rise to the platform of worshipping Lord Shiva in search for the ever existing soul, and then to the stage of worshipping Lord Vishnu, the Supersoul, etc. Without any information of Govinda, Lord Krishna, who is the original Lord Vishnu. In other words, in other ways, some are worshippers of race, nationality, birds, beasts, and evil spirits, satanas, etc. The general worship of Sani Deva, the Lord of distressful condition, and Sitala Deva, the goddess of smallpox, is also common to the mass of people, and there are many foolish men who worship the mass of people or the poor class of men. So, different persons, society, and communities, etc., worship some of the potent manifestations of the Lord, wrongly accepting the powerful object as God. But in this verse, it is advised by Brahmaji that none of them is the Supreme Lord. They are only borrowed plumes from the original Almighty Lord Sri Krishna. When the Lord advises in the Bhagavad-gītā to worship Him alone, it is to be understood that worshipping Lord Krishna includes worshipping all that is mentioned, because He, Lord Krishna, includes everyone. When the Lord is described as formless in the Vedic literatures, it is to be understood that all these forms mentioned above within the experience of universal knowledge are different exhibitions of the Lord's transcendental potencies only, and none of them factually represents the transcendental form of the Lord. But when the Lord actually descends to the earth or anywhere within the universe, the less intelligent class of men also mistake him to be one of them, and thus they imagine the transcendence to be formless or impersonal. Factually, the Lord is not formless, nor does he belong to any of the multiforms experienced within the universal forms. One should try to know the truth about the Lord by following the instruction of Brahmaji. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Vrinda. Vrinda is the youngest reader in our class, and still every day her attendance is 100%. Yeah, so ahead now he'll say, because we are concluding this chapter with this particular shloka. So ahead he'll say that in the next chapter he'll say that, okay, now I'll describe you all the Leela Avtaras which are composed of the Chit Shakti of the Lord. And these Leela Avtaras, what is the quality of these Leela Avtaras? These are very pleasing to the ear, and you will be able to relish these. And when you will hear these Leela Avtaras will counteract all that, false, matter or foul matter that is accumulated in the ear. So any misunderstandings, in case if you have, that also will be cleared. So very nice shloka this is. Pradhanyato yanrusha आमनन्ति लीलावतारं पुरुषस्य भुन्नः अपीयता कर्णकषायशोषान् अनुक्रमिष्य त इमान् सुपेशानः. Yeah, Tejasri Mataji, please read this translation and purport both. Oh, she's left the class. Okay, Vishal Prabhu, please read the translation and purport both.
Hare Krishna Mataji.
Hare Krishna Prabhu.
O Narad, now I shall state, one after another, the transcendental incarnations of the Lord known as Leela Avtaras. Hearing of their activities counteracts all foul matters accumulated in the ear. These pastimes are pleasing to hear and are to be relished, therefore they are in my heart. Purport. As it was said in the beginning of Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam 1.5.8, one cannot be fully satisfied by hearing unless and until one is given a chance to hear of the transcendental activities of the Lord. So Brahmaji is also trying in this verse to stress the importance of the narrating the transcendental pastimes of the Lord. As he comes and manifests himself here on the surface of the material planets, every living entity has a tendency to hear pleasing messages. And as such, almost every one of us is inclined to hear news and talks broadcast by the radio stations. But the difficulty is that no one is satisfied at heart by hearing all those messages. The cause of such dissatisfaction is the incompatibility of the message with the innermost stratum of the living soul. This transcendental literature is especially prepared by Sri Vyasadeva to give the most satisfaction to the people in general by narration of the activities of the Lord. As instructed by Sri Narad Muni to Sri Vyasadeva, such activities of the Lord are principally of two varieties. One concerns the mundane manifestation of the material creative force, and the other deals with his pastimes in the form of different incarnations in terms of the time and the place. There are innumerable incarnations of the Lord, like the waves of the river flowing constantly in and out. Less intelligent persons take more interest in the creative forces of the Lord in the material world and being disconnected from their relationship with the Lord. They put forward many theories of the creation in the name of scientific research. The devotees of the Lord, however, know well how to create how the creative forces work concurrently by the action and reaction of the material energy of the Lord. Therefore, they take more interest in the transcendental activities of the Lord as he incarnates himself on the surface of. Mataji, please scroll down.
Yeah, I was just trying to.
Of the material world. Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam is the history of such activities of the Lord, and people who take interest in hearing Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam clear their hearts of accumulated mundane filth. There are 1,001 rash literatures on the market, but one who has taken interest in the Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam loses all interest in such filthy literatures. Sri Brahmaji is thus attempting to narrate the principal incarnations of the Lord so that they may be drunk by Narada as transcendental nectar.
Yeah, thank you, Prabhu. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Mataji.
Thus ends the Bhaktivedanta purports of the second canto, 6th chapter of the Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam, entitled Purusha Sukta Confirmed. So these are very wonderful. Brahmaji is actually narrating to Narada Muni. And then now in the next chapter onwards, he will start narrating all these Leela Avtaras, right from all these various incarnations, all the four Kumaras, the Narnarayan, Kapil Muni, Varaha Avatar, the Prishni Garbha, the Pruthu. And we will come to know also that who are these incarnations and what was their specific role, or with what intention did they come, and what did they actually, what problem did they suffice. So Matsya Avatar, Kurma Avatar, Vaman Avatar, all these avatars we'll be seeing. There's almost, you can say, 39 avatars are there in that chapter. And we'll be quickly, you can say, rushing through those avatars. And all these avatars are very important to know. Why? Because if you see, there is Guna Avatar, Leela Avatar, Manvantar Avatar, Avesh Avatar, and the Vibhutis of the Lord. And along with their prime purpose of descent, they describe. So, for example, Kumaras came. Why did they? Actually, why did they descend? For what purpose did they come over here? So, okay, they appeared when Brahma underwent some austerities for creation, and they wanted to establish the spiritual truth. Or why did Prithu Maharaj appear? The Prithu Maharaj appeared because his father, King Vena, he was actually putting so many atrocities, and he delivered actually King Vena from hell. And then, because Mother Earth was also at that point of time not giving so much of abundance of fruits, vegetables, and grains, and also she was also very happy in the during the reign of King Vena. So then when he came, then he milked the earth, and then he drew all kinds of crops as good produce. So that was so. Some of them are Shaktivesh avatars, which means they're specially empowered. Specially empowered, which means what? For that particular, for that particular time, what is required, Krishna specially empowers a particular devotee. And then when that work is finished, then again he will withdraw those powers from that particular devotee. So that is called, specially empowered Shaktivesh avatar. Like for even Arjuna, if you see, Krishna had empowered him during the Kurukshetra war. But as soon as the war got over, all his powers were, taken away by Krishna once again. So if Krishna wants to, give somebody those powers, then out of his own free will, Krishna will give those powers. So we'll be seeing that from tomorrow. So dear devotees, thank you so much for your wonderful association and reading. It keeps me active in Krishna consciousness in reading also. So thank you so much. Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Gaur Bhakti ki jai, Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Devi Nanda.
Hare Krishna Maharaj.
Bhagavatam ki jai ho, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna.